Welcome, everybody. You're watching Who Cares? I'm Kurt Roskoff with the World of Ability Podcast Network, and we are pleased, proud, and privileged to have this show brought to you by Todd Lingel, the founder and working with the nonprofit Cares Foundation. And so this is all born out of Todd's story, unfortunately losing his mother and sister to a collision caused by someone who is practicing drinking and driving. But we have a great guest today. You're going to learn about exciting works of today's guest for a great show. And so I'm going to bring you Todd Lingel of Cares Foundation. And Todd, come on in. This is your show. Who
All
cares?
right.
Take it over.
Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate the introduction. Hey, everybody. Today, woo, am I excited? We have my main man, my friend, Tony Lynch. He's got a podcast here called Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And I was on there last week. Absolutely phenomenal. Tony, thank you for coming. And man, I want you to tell us your story and tell us whatever you would like because this is your show too.
Oh man, I appreciate that, Todd, and thank you, man. Thank you so much for being on my show and invite me on being on yours, man. I'm truly excited for this, man. So for everyone out there, I'm Tony Lynch. I am the founder of Memories of Us, which is a nonprofit dedicated to helping men in grief. I'm also one of the founders of the Global Grief Network, where it's a networking platform for individuals like myself to be able to network and collaborate with each other. I'm a two-time author. I am the host of the Global Grief Conference. I'm a podcaster as well, program designer and chief editor of the magazine Grief Talk magazine. And I know a lot of people may be thinking like how did I get here and things like that. And long story short, I've experienced every type of grief that you can ever imagine, except for loss of a spouse. So my journey actually started at the age of 6 years old. I was molested twice by my neighbor's son, which kind of took me down this road of understanding the world from a different lens. And what I mean by that, at an early age, I think I had a really quick or good understanding that the world was capable of. The world was full of bad people that was capable of doing really bad things to other people, and so I learned how to survive. I learned how to. I learned how to hide what had happened from me, and still be my mom and dad's son, be a grandson, be my sister's brother, all of those different things, but also learn how to survive at a very early age too. You know, when I realized no one was going to save me, which led me down a path of destruction. I got involved in the gangs. Well, let me back up. I moved away from home at the age of 15, got involved in the gangs, started selling drugs, went to prison, homelessness, watching people, watching most of my friends die, being an alcoholic for over 20 years, more unhealthy and reckless relationships where I have to honestly admit that I was the toxic one, right? Trust issues, abandonment issues, you name it, the whole gambit. And eventually growing up and losing both of my parents, losing my younger brother and my son. Eventually I did try to take my life after losing everything again, which led me to where I am today.
Thank you, Tony. And one thing I wanted to ask you is there what one thing, or was there one big thing that actually changed in your life to where you're like you took that turn to where it's like, oh man, I need to stop doing this or I need to change.
Well, there wasn't there's just one thing. It was a multitude of things.
Yeah.
So it's that saying sometimes one thing will lead into the next thing.
Hmm.
So the first thing that happened, I had my son, right? I had my son. And I told myself, I said, you know what? I want to be a good man and I want to be a good father, but I don't know how to do neither one of these. And I really don't have any positive role models. So I had to really think about some things. And that's the first time where I said, you know what, I want to have a good relationship with God. And so I did. I began because I didn't have any positive role models. And I said, you know what? That's more of a positive role model than anything I have. So let me just go back in and see if I can have a relationship with them. And so I did. I pursued it. I pursued that relationship because I wanted to know what it was like to be a man. I wanted to know what it was like to be kind because there was a lot of things. I was a violent individual, Todd. I was a
Yeah.
very violent individual. And I knew I didn't want that, right? I didn't want to keep being violent. I didn't want to keep making excuses. So
Yeah.
that was the first step. And then when I had my son, I was like, well, I don't know how to be a father. So one and two kind of come together. Like I'm building a relationship with God, and now I got my son, and I'm building a relationship with my son. My son taught me how to be a father.
Yeah.
So that was the first step, right? Um, and then after that, it was becoming who it was becoming that person. And I had a blast, right? I learned how to have peace in my heart, gratitude and appreciation, patience. My son taught me to live in the world with him, right? To explore the life through his eyes, wanting to climb trees and seeing life as a playground. And, you know, and it taught me to have one-on-one time with my soul, my spirit. And because I wanted to be that father for him. I wanted him to have discipline, morals, and respect. I
Yeah.
wanted him to understand the way that the world operated, but I wanted him to use his intellect in order to navigate it in a better way than I did instead of being violent.
Yeah.
And so that's where it all started. And then from there, it was a multitude of things because there was things that I had to do, like stop drinking, right? I had to stop doing that. And so I did. Um, I got into pursuing a career in personal training. So I started my very first ever company with him and everything. And with the notion of, you know what, I'm going to build up the company so when he gets older, I can give it over to him. And he was already interested in being a personal trainer. So at a very early age, he used to always work out with me.
Uh-huh.
And so, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to pursue and things like that. And over the years, I built it up. I really did. And when he passed away, I lost the passion for it. I did. I lost the passion for it because I lost everything. I
Right.
lost everything after that. And then my mother passed away. And now here's where the other sections start to come in. Because after my mother passed away, I realized, like I'm now alone again in the world, right? I'm alone. And what do you do with that? I'm an orphan. My
Right.
son is gone. My younger brother is gone. Now I say that to say this because there's a reality that comes along with it now. I'm the oldest and the last of my generation or my bloodline. So that means that when I'm done, there's no one else. Life
Right.
has managed to wipe out everything. And there's a sense of there's another set of reality that I now have to live by. What am I supposed to do with this? Right?
Yeah.
Because everything now is different. Like before it was like you can accept life in a different way. But when you're carrying that sort of knowledge with you, like you're the last, Tony.
Yeah.
You're the last of this bloodline. That means that when you're gone, so is your bloodline. You're extinct.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that? Well, I decided to say, you know what? I don't want to do it anymore. And so I'm smart enough to plan out my own suicide without other people knowing, and I did, right? So I went back into survival mode. I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I was going to do, and I set out to do it. And it took me from almost taking my life. I was 2 seconds away from taking my life. Now here's where the other segments start to come in, because I could have easily pulled the trigger, but something stopped me. Divine intervention, repair, whatever people want to believe in. It's not for me to, push anything on anyone. You're entitled to believe what you want, as long as it makes you a good person. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
But whatever it was, it kept me, and then it began to educate me. Like it began to say, no, you don't get to do this. See, what I didn't see was the other side of it. I didn't see the other side of the pain. All I knew was pain,
Yeah.
right? This emptiness inside of me, that I didn't know what to do with, right? There was nothing there. There was nothing except for chaos and pain.
Yeah.
And when a person is living like that, it's a really, really dark place for an individual. And I started thinking to myself, the world would be a better place without me. It's not like I have family.
Right.
It's not like I have anybody that cares. So why not, right? Look at my life. I'm back to being homeless again. I've lost my company. I have nobody. And
Yeah.
there was this thing that in that moment that was absent, and most people should be scared when this happens, but I had no fear of dying. Right? I wasn't afraid to pull the trigger anymore. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And when that voice came, it did something else to me. Right? I pleaded with this thing, Todd. I pleaded with it. I said, look at my life. Just let me go. Right? Just let me go. So now here's what the other sequences of events that actually got me to where I am. So now the voice is saying, no, I can't do that. Right? I got something else for you. And I
Yeah.
said, look, if since you won't let me take my life, let me go and live in a mountain somewhere. I'll find a cave somewhere. You'll never have to worry about me ever again. The voice said, no, no, I can't let you do that neither. I said, well, have you seen my life? And I began to run down these different scenarios: the child molestation, the watching countless friends die, the alcoholism, the homelessness, the endless battles that I've had to fight, right? The losing my parents, my younger brother and my son, that constantly having to move around, not knowing where I was going to be from time to time. The voice said, yeah, I know. And then it began to break it down. Well, had you not experienced this, you wouldn't be able to do this. Had you been stable, I wouldn't be able to move you around to these different places.
Yeah.
You worried about the friends that you lost. See, the experience was yours, but it had nothing to do with you. See, what you didn't see was the families that was being affected by this. You just saw how it affected you.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what about my parents? They're just like, well, your parents taught you how your parents raised you. They taught you, right? Yeah, okay. Their job is done. I said, well, what about my younger brother? They said, the voice said, well, your dad needed him more than you needed him. I said, well, what about my son? The voice said, see, here's the problem. He was mine before he was yours. You got the chance to be his father. No matter how long or how short it was, you still got the opportunity to do it. Take that.
Yeah.
And I began to look and say, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And that's when the voice said, I'm glad you asked. And that's when this thing called grief showed up. And it began to download inside of me like I was some supercomputer or something like that, right? And I was like, what is this? And life began to make sense, right? But not in the way that most people may think. Like, I understood things that I don't know where it came from. And then it just kept coming, and I became more and more excited to wanting to know what it was. And I sat down with it for a minute, and it revealed itself. It said, hey, I am the thing called grief. I am yours and you are mine. And that was the first time in my life I realized that out of everything I had ever gone through, it was the one thing that had never left me.
Yeah.
And I wanted the relationship with it.
Yeah. I have to add to this because that's one thing we have in common is I almost committed suicide as well. And I had a shotgun in my mouth at one point. And with when you're talking there, it was like I didn't know I still don't know what my headspace was at that point, trying to think about that time. And I don't know why I didn't pull the trigger, because I was just tired. I was tired of fighting the feeling that I had out growing up. And then, like you're saying, when it comes to that point where you, I guess it's for better lack of word, to give up to that, thinking you're going to commit suicide. And then for me, it was going and getting the help. And then, man, I was an angry person. I was short tempered. All those emotions that you're talking about, man, I was there with you. I was tired of it, and I was tired of people having mothers and sisters. I really was. And even though my dad's great and stuff, and my kids are great, and I was like, I wasn't even thinking about them. And when I went through that counseling, man, when I was able to mourn my mom and sister's death, life changed, completely changed. And I'm a God-fearing gentleman. I believe in God totally, and I know it was God that helped me through that time. It's helped me through my whole life. And so, man, with what you've talked about, very, very powerful. And you know what? I'm sorry that things have happened to you, but man, you have such a powerful story, and you're going to come out of it helping tons of people. You already have, and I appreciate you for that. So continue on with you. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, I want to add to what you just said, and I do appreciate that. But I'm not sorry that things happened to me the way that it did, because what it does, it helps me do what I do today, right? It does. It really does. And it may sound crazy to people when I say this, but look, had I not lost the people that I've lost, my parents, my younger brother, my son, I wouldn't know how to hold space with someone.
Yeah.
Right. Had I not been homeless so many times, I wouldn't be able to help the next person kind of navigate and figure it out so they can get out of it as well. Right.
Yeah.
I'm an example. I'm an example that it is possible. It is possible. You may look, this life may beat the crap out of you. Trust me, I know. Like I could tell people stories, man, about the endless fights I've been in, the endless gun fights I've been in, where the endless fights where I've been in where I was outnumbered 6-1, 10-1, and had to fight my way out of it.
Yeah.
The hardest battles was fighting myself, was controlling that. That was the hardest part. I could tell people about the endless times where, I ended up in places drunk off my butt, right? In abandoned buildings and things like that. And couldn't tell you how I got there.
Yeah.
Right? The times where I've had to fight with the police. Times of going to prison, right?
Yeah.
All of these different things is how I'm able to do what I do today.
Yeah.
With a lot of healing, right? With a lot of healing, because there's a lot of things that I didn't understand, but I'm glad that I said yes to the process of wanting to have a relationship with grief. And what it did, it just set me on this path, man. It really did. A path of creativity, of service to other people, of understanding, of being curious, and just using the things that I've learned to write programs, right, for other organizations, to to write books. I never thought about being an author.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to do that, right?
Yeah.
To be able to travel the world and go and talk to other people, but having an understanding, of both sides, of all the demographics, men, women, and children, and saying, oh, let me show you how to create an atmosphere so this can happen. Right? Let me run through some boundaries for you that you can be able to implement into this, that that's going to be effective in what you do, right? And holding space for your loved one, or maybe for a friend, and things like that. Starting a magazine. I never thought about starting a magazine, but I did.
Yeah.
Right. I was just like, why not? Let's do it. Right. And I did. Right. And the crazy part about it is, Todd, like, podcasting allowed me the opportunity to meet so many other people like myself. It's that old saying, find your tribe.
Yeah.
and I didn't know what my tribe was, so I kind of went out and kind of created my own tribe with people like myself,
Yeah.
right? And it's only because I wanted to have a place to be able to collaborate and network with them, which that was how that's where the Global Grief Network comes from. But that was actually born out of something else too, right?
Yeah.
Everything was born out of something else, right? And
Yeah.
so the Global Grief Network actually came in 2022. I woke up one day, and let's see, I started this in 2019. In 2021, I got my 501(c), and that's during COVID. In 2022, well, actually, the end of 2021, December 2021, before New Year's, I said, you know what, I want to start a conference. I want to do a conference, and there's some guys that I was with was like, okay, what sort of conference? I said, you know what, I know all of these people from across the world. Let's do a global grief conference. What do you want to do? And I started thinking, I said, you know what? Let's do it at the end of April. Why? Because we're coming out of spring and going into summer, right? We're coming out of Passover, coming out of Easter. And
Yeah.
so, and during that times, people emotions are high, right? And
Yeah.
people are going to be looking for support. I said, what if we can be the catalyst for that? And so that's how the Global Grief Conference was formed. And I said, you know what? I want to make it free for everyone. I want to take care of this. I want to bring these practitioners together for 3 days at the end of April. And I want to educate people, give people support and resources.
Yeah.
But I want them to do what they love doing. I don't want them to do anything else.
Yeah.
And I did. And it was born, right? And then from there, everything else just kind of fell into place. And the more and more I grow within this gift that has been given to me, the more I have a deep and better understanding of life in general, right? Maybe just a little bit deeper than most people, you
No,
know?
I'm with you.
Yeah. Because
I,
it changes your perspective, right?
it totally does. And it's crazy because, I never thought, I've always wanted to do this, but I never thought it would maybe come about because of everything that I was going through at the time. But,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right. Doing this changes perspective. And it's like things that may have bothered me in the past doesn't bother me now. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's like my whole goal, the whole goal with, I know you and Caris Foundation is save people's lives and help others and how
Yeah.
we can serve them. And I know God's involved. I know God's involved in your organization and mine. And yeah, it's crazy. People that have known me from back in the day to now, like a friend of mine I got back together with, her name's Nanette. Um, she's a great person from growing up, going to church camp together to seeing me with the way I am now and things that I've gone through. She had at one point didn't even know what things I had gone through that way. And
Right.
so it's just crazy how like you're saying, it just you have an insight that I don't know, it's hard to explain that, isn't it? The
It
insight.
is.
Yeah.
And here's the reality of it, Todd, is that sometimes it's not for you to explain to other people.
Yeah.
It's not, right? It's your insight. And that's the beautiful thing about this gift, right? This gift that you've been giving. Not everybody needs to understand it. You
Yeah.
need to understand it. You need to craft it. You need to beat on it. You need to manifest it into the world. It is yours. It's just like if you saw someone who was building a business, never been done before, but he knows that that individual knows that this is something that he or she needs to do. It's an obsession for him. You may look at that and go, "Is something wrong with that dude?"
Yeah.
And if he tried to explain it to you, you would look at him like he was crazy.
Yeah.
You would look at them, he or she, like they were crazy because you don't understand it.
Yeah. And I've had some
But
people
all
look at
of
me that way.
right, but all of a sudden, you see what they're doing. You see their vision because they're starting to manifest it into the world.
Yeah.
And nothing can stop them. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
So you just kind of sit back and kind of do you, right?
Yeah.
But that's the beautiful part about these gifts. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
The way we see the world, a lot of people will never reach that level. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because the gift is for us to give to other people in a way to where they can understand it, right?
Yep.
And be able to take what we have in order to get to where they need to be.
Absolutely.
We don't need to explain the depthness of it.
Yeah. There's one thing I know we're on just a 30-minute show. We don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to have you, if there's kids or teenagers that end up watching this or whatever, tell them what you would like them to know.
Have grace with yourself. Whatever you're going through, have grace with yourself because it's all unfamiliar territory and you don't need to have all the answers. Surround yourself with people that can help you find those answers for you, right? But most importantly, just have grace with yourself.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Tony, because a lot of the kids that I talk to, they're in a situation, and especially like when I go into group homes, a lot of the kids have heard that, well, you're in a group home, so you must be a bad kid. And I tell them, no, it's not that. It's, yes, unfortunately you've gone through some things, but it's how you come out of it. And I said, all of us in life are at a point where we have to make a decision to turn right and do something good, or turn left and go down a bad hole and maybe end up in prison. And I said, it's unfortunate what you've gone through. You're a young age though. You're at that point to make that decision. So you turn right, make some great decisions. You're off and running. You have an advantage to the kids that are still at home, because the kids still at home don't have a clue what life's really about yet, because mom and dad are there protecting them.
Yeah.
And so I tell these kids in the group homes, man, you've got it if you just choose to take the right way. And that's what we're there for, is to help individuals like myself. And, that's what we're all about, is helping anybody and everybody. It's like, how can we serve you? And, I love what you're doing with the grief, because there's not enough people out there that are working with people with grief. And it's a place to talk and get out. Even at this point in my life, almost committing suicide, that type of thing, there's still days that I need to talk to somebody. There's days that things come up. I have anxiety the rest of my life. I talk to people, and you talk about suicide. It's close to me. On the back of my phone, I have the number 988.
Yeah.
That's the suicide and crisis lifeline. People can call that 988 if you're in a bad situation or need to talk to somebody. And the other thing too, I'm going to throw it out there. I do every week. My cell phone number, 541-490-5171. If anybody sees this, give somebody my number. I don't care. Call me. I will help you one way or the other. I don't care if you're where you're at. I'll make sure you get help some way. So Tony, give us some of your kind of last words on what you'd like to tell the people that are going to be watching this, and just give us some final words, if you would.
I want to say something that a lot of people don't hear enough of. I love you.
Yeah.
For anybody out there that needs to hear this, I do love you. Right? Yeah. And I want to see you succeed in life. So yeah, that's what I will leave people.
That is awesome, Tony. And I'm right there with you. And it's awesome that you say that, because I feel it in my heart. But you know what? I don't know that I've ever said it online, that I love the kids and everyone we talk to. And I appreciate that. That is, again, we talked about communication on the show last week. It's like we need to communicate this with the kids, that how we feel, instead of on the cell phones, And
Yeah.
you can get me going on that one. We did that. But hey, everybody, Tony, thank you so much for being on the show. And everybody, go online, check us out, carestoday.org. And Tony, tell us real quick how we get a hold of you, how they see what you're doing.
Yeah, most definitely. First, they can, if you want to, you can connect with me on Facebook as Tony Lynch, Memories of Us LTD. If you're a grief practitioner, mental health practitioner, or in the field of service to other people, you can find me on the Global Grief Network. That's all on Facebook. You can follow me on LinkedIn as Tony Lynch. You can follow me on Instagram as Men's Grief Support. If you're into listening to conversations around death, dying, and grief with some amazing people, they can find me on YouTube as the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast, right? And other than that, they can find me on the website. They don't have to donate. I've actually disabled my donation button because I don't want people to donate to me as well. Keep your money, that way we can get you into therapy and you'll be able to afford that as well. But it is www.mensgriefsupport.org, right? Go there, find a lot of stuff that I put on, and you can connect to me that way as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And again, for your listeners, carestoday.org. Take a look at us. Would love to talk with you. You have a story you want to be on the show, just give us a call, reach out to us. We're on Facebook, Who Cares? Also, Cares Foundation. And so, yeah, and you can contact me. My cell phone number is on the carestoday.org website. And give me a call. Let's chat, and let's get you online if you'd like to be on the show. And again, Tony, thank you so much. Kurt, appreciate you. Like always, you've done so much for Cares Foundation. I really appreciate you. And so everybody, we're off, and you guys have a great week, and we will see you next week.